Fairport schools, and I'm glad to see that we have so many of our community out and about here to hear about how we view an opportunity to level up and talk about how we anticipate being able to add lighting on our multi-purpose fields. But before I begin, since this is an athletic event, we have so many great, amazing athletic teams in Fairport. I would be remiss if I didn't congratulate Mr. Bill Teasdale and his boys soccer team for winning. And looking forward to all of our other teams who are competing and celebrating and how they represent Fairport with so much class, style, and pride. I'd like to introduce first over here to my left, to your right, our board members are here observing. Say hello to our board members. They're interested in getting a pulse on people's thoughts and feelings, and we hope that this is a two-way conversation after we do some of our presentation and talk about some of the fundamentals of this before we open it up to some Q&As. But we're going to start with some introductions, starting on my left.
Good night, everyone. Troy Williams from LaBelle Associate, architect and project manager with the construction team.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jeremy Nardone. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Business and Operations here at Fairport.
Good evening. Bob Clark here. I'm the principal at Fairport High School.
Good evening. I'm Fritz Killian, Director of Health Phys Ed Athletics.
Mark Esposito with Campus Construction Management Group, graduate class of 99.
Brian Belair, Campus Construction Management Group. Craig McGowan, Campus Construction Management Group.
Nathan Lindsay, Moscow Sports Lighting.
And on my left, who just came in?
Aaron Smith, Director of Facilities and Fashionably Late.
I have the opportunity and pleasure to facilitate this conversation, and we're going to start out by talking about some of the facts of the project, the whys, the what, the how did we get here, and hopefully as we do an initial presentation, we are able to answer some questions that you might have. We tried to anticipate as much as we can. Then of course, when we're done with that, we will be doing a Q&A session. Starting out will be Jeremy Nardone.
All right, thank you, Mr. Provenzano. So, fast forwarding here. So, lighting the multi-purpose fields, why now? That's probably a question that a lot of you have, and that's what we're trying to answer here tonight and make it understandable why we can do this at this stage in the project. So, if we go forward here, a lot of things are unknown. Remember, this project, the design of this project actually started about a year and a half before the project was voted on. Project was voted on in October of 2023. Which means the design probably started in April of 2022. So when all that happens, we are trying to project prices for work that is going to start a year and a half to 2 years after the vote happens, which is a year and a half after that date. So we're trying to plan out almost 4 years. Try to predict what your grocery bill will be in 3 weeks is difficult, right? So imagine all the different construction, all the different phases, all the different things that go into the construction process that we're going to talk about today. It all starts with the bidding process. Bidding process came in April, and that is when we actually look at all the different bids that were received on our job. It is unpredictable. We don't know what it's going to look like at that time, and there's a couple different reasons for that. The first one, and it kind of goes with the number two, is the timing of the State Education Department, their approval and their allowing us to bid. So when NYSED approves our project, that gives us the green light to go ahead and to bid it. We want to bid in months where construction workers are not that busy to make our projects favorable. That makes sense, right? Because if you bid when everybody's got work, you're going to get escalated prices. So when the timing of SED comes back, which was very favorable, it was around that December, January timeframe that allowed us to bid this in the February, March timeframe to have bid awards in April. Also, competitive bidding market that goes along with that. We had a great competitive bidding market that was really led by our construction team. So Campus Construction, LaBella, they actually went out and got people excited about this project. Hey, Fairport's coming up. It's a big project. It's a great district to work for. They're good people. And it gets the word out so that we have more people bidding on our project. More people who bid, the lower the prices come in. And in addition, we want a project that's desirable to the contractors. So what does that mean? If you have all your work taking place over the summer months, your contractors are only busy for those 2 to 4 months. They don't guarantee work for a whole year. So our project is desirable because there's still work going on, and there will be work going on all year. So that's kind of with the swing space that we're able to work with our building principals to make sure that people want our job because it's going to keep their people employed for the whole year. So what we did was we prioritized and made sure that everything we promised the district voters in the 2023 scope, we delivered on. So that was our first step. So with that, this is a list of everything that we talked about and everything that we promised the voters. We talked about the tennis courts. We talked about the track and field. We talked about the STEAM addition. We talked about the library classrooms. We talked about the parking addition, renovations to Martha Brown, health classrooms. All those add-ons or additions or part of base bid, we wanted to make sure we have to do that first. And again, the anticipated closeout of that is 2027. So I just wanted to bring that to the attention that we are doing everything that we told the voters that we want to do and that we are doing. So going forward here, then our next step is to work with our construction team to identify any remaining funds. And remember, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, there was 2 propositions, one specific to the track, one for the addition, alterations, and renovations to the high school. So we work with Labella, we work with campus, we work with our financial advisors to allocate those expenses to the 2 projects. Once we do that, then we know exactly how much money is remaining. And again, we got to set some money aside for change orders, potential problems that could go wrong, that could arise with any construction project. So after that is all said and done, we have that remaining scope that we have available. Then we look to prioritize that in 3 unique ways. What is something that our community needs? What is something that our students need? And then also we want to maximize state aid. That's where I come in. I want to make sure that the district maximizes its aid. And one of the things we do, you see that last bullet there, leveraging aided work based on maximum cost allowances. The state has maximum cost allowances which state that every 5 years you can spend X amount of dollars on your school, both inside and out, and get aided on that project. We want to make sure we're taking advantage of that. Otherwise, we're leaving aided work on the table. So by doing this extra work, we are maximizing and leveraging those maximum cost allowances, which is fantastic for the district. And then that work will reset in 5 years. The estimated cost of the lights, again, we do have some contingent expenses in there because we just don't know what's going to happen, is estimated cost around $2 million for the lights. Bottom line, you're going to see it right there. It's the right time and the right place to take advantage of this project for our taxpayers. And again, this is that same timeline that you saw, but if Mr. Provenzano, you want to hit that button one more time, now you're going to see a little bit more of the added phase there for the installation of the lights. So once this gets designed by our architectural team, we're hoping that that'll get submitted in late February, early March. We anticipate 4 to 6 months for the state education department to review that, and then we got to go out to bid and award the contract. So we're hoping to start this work anytime between October and December of 2026. Or I'm sorry, no, let's restate that. So we're gonna bid this or send it to SED in March. We're gonna get the approval in July to September. So we are going to send it out in December of, yes, 2026. So then we have that full year, December of 26 through October of 27, and that's kind of that green line there to construct and build these lights. We want to get done by October because by December of 27, we have to be closed out to maximize our aid. And with that,
What is included in this project? Yeah.
Yep. So what is included in the proposed lighting project? It's a 10-pole system with 95 individual fixtures. It's the latest technology in sports lighting, and we'll see some examples around our neighborhoods in the next slide. What you can do is you only have to turn on what you need. So you can do a baseball and a softball game at the same time, or just light one field. We're also going to put infrastructure in for future huddle cams, as well as cameras. Ease of operation, you can operate the lighting system from your phone, so coaches and all the different users will have no issue operating it. And one of the best things is Musco has a 25-year fully warranted system from labor and material. So next slide. And here are some of the neighboring districts. You can see we have multiple facilities in 8 neighboring districts. So we're going to turn it over to Nathan to talk a little bit more about dark skies and spill lighting.
Does anybody in this room, has anybody ever heard of Musco before?
Yes.
Just out of curiosity, your experience?
Electrical engineer.
Okay. So we're an odd duck in that all the people that we compete against make fixtures, a lot of them outside the United States. Musco is a private, family-owned company based out of Iowa. We've been in business since 1976, and because we're private, we've been able to do things a little different than all of the other folks have. And one of those items was reinvest in ourselves for the last 50 years. And so we're 15, 20-ish years ahead of our nearest competitor in terms of technology. And one of the things we've always done really well is controlling the light. And in the case of a project like this, putting it where you want to use it and keeping it away from the places that you don't want to see the light. So our experience, today we are the global leader in sports lighting by a magnitude that most people couldn't believe our market share, and it's because we really do every component of a sports lighting project significantly better than everybody else. As far as controlling off-site spilling glare light, we work hand in hand with International Dark Skies Association. We chair multiple committees on the IAS to help them understand how to control light. Back in the Barbara and George Bush era, they invited us into the Park Service, and we now light all the monuments and national parks, Mount Rushmore, Statue of Liberty, places where the same principles apply, right? We want to see the object, but not anything else. And we light fields that are just outside of federally funded observatories in Arizona, where dark skies are super important. So it goes way beyond just lighting a field, but that same level of control works really well in a project like this. And real quick, most people, when they think about sports lighting, what they picture is what you see on the far left, which is what it looks like with a spun aluminum shield, reflector, no glare technology built in. As you work from left to right, this is all Musco stuff except the very last one on the right. But what you guys have on that existing stadium, which was installed, 20-ish years ago, it's close to what we were doing in 1989. So it's that third from the left. And that's what you guys have on that existing stadium now. If you go second from the right, that's what we do today, right? Which you actually see right here. So by using shielding and recessing the diodes and making sure mounting heights are correct, we can make it so that the only time you really get that glare that people get bothered by, whether you're driving on the road or next to a field, is when you're standing on the field and you're looking straight up into the fixture, right? And so from an offsite perspective, it produces some really nice pictures. Move on to the next one. In terms of an example, we picked this one just because this is a really popular layout now. So that multi-purpose baseball, softball, multi-purpose overlay like you guys have, it's becoming the dominant layout throughout New York because people don't have the room to build 6, 7 different fields. They stack them on top of each other. Normally that's pretty hard to light, but as you can see here, we really do a good job of making it extremely dark. It doesn't take long to get off of the surface before it becomes really dark. But more importantly, you see some photos on the internet where people are up in the air and they looks really good. This is one I like because it's, you're very similar to the vantage point that neighbors would be looking at when you're looking at this field. And the first time you see one of our systems, it looks funny because it almost looks like you're looking at the back of the pole, but you're really looking directly at the lights that are facing you. But again, just like you guys are here, you're not looking into the light. Really all you're gonna see is a little bit of glow from the pole here. So it really does produce a nice visual image. Same project, different vantage point, but again, just a little further out so you can see how quickly it does dissipate once you get outside of the field of play. And on the next slide is the actual design that we've already completed for this one. And the important thing to note here is this is a pretty standard chart where what we're calculating here is how intense is the lighting once you get away from the facility, and we picked different landmarks. In this case, we picked 150-foot spill grid. So that line, which you can't obviously read those numbers, but those are all horizontal spill values. And both our horizontal, vertical, and candela, we calculate the maximum. So in this particular scenario, as you can see, that red number, if you look in the trees, just to the right of the right field corner of the softball field, we intentionally here have got that to be the lowest spots. So everything that is to the east of this facility is where we're really maximizing the spill and glare and keeping the numbers extremely low. And on this chart here, if we actually calculated what it would be when I go out there to measure it to verify compliance, you're going to be at 0 point something, 0.01, 0.02 foot candles. And to put that into perspective, right now, tonight, even on a cloudy night, just ambient light from all of the lighting around this community, you're going to get higher readings than what we'll have in those points. And if we factored in the blockage from the trees, it's going to be 0.00 all the way along that property line. So I'm extremely confident that we can light this extremely well for all of the sports to use for practices and potentially games if weather required it, without having an impact on any of the residents that live to the west of there.
How will this project affect our facilities and our teams? Fairport High School, we are the largest high school in Section 5 by enrollment. We also have the largest amount of teams. Our student athletes have multiple opportunities to compete at the modified level, JV level, and varsity level. We also offer every sport besides badminton and rifle.
That's coming.
Thank you.
Not the right. Not the right.
As you can see up on the screen, the amount of sports that we have, and you know, right now the 16 teams that you see up there, everything from varsity flag football to JV varsity football, those are the teams that are practicing on our current stadium and also on our multi-purpose turf field. When we get into games, or when we get into daylight savings, or when we get to the spring or the fall, we are certainly restricted. We also don't have the luxury of every coach that's going to work in Fairport, or every coach that is going to be a teacher or getting out at a certain time. So I firmly believe that we want to hire the best coaches possible, but not everybody is going to be a teacher and is able to leave their place of work at a certain amount of time. We also have a situation that's been trending over the years where we have officials and referees that are no longer educators. They're not getting out of work until 5. And we have been slowly creeping towards the norm where our afternoon games are starting at 5:30. There's transportation challenges. All of that constricts us. With this potential light project moving forward, it's certainly going to create us and give us more flexibility in terms of when we can run our practices, when we can start playing our games. And the second arrow at the bottom, where I've put down potential to expand to boys JV varsity lacrosse, girls JV varsity lacrosse. Those are teams that right now in the spring, they cannot practice on the multi-purpose turf field, because that multi-purpose turf field is really dedicated to softball and baseball. With this potential project moving forward, it's going to give us a lot more flexibility where those teams can practice. And with more flexibility, that's better for our students, it's better for their schedules, and it's better for our families. Next slide, please.
Yeah, if I could just jump in my capacity as the high school principal. I know it might sound limited, but in a former life as a softball coach, and as someone that's responsible for the consolidation, a couple of things. First and foremost, with regards to my past life as a coach, it wouldn't be uncommon for us not to complete a game because of light, even starting at 4:30 just in the springtime. And that consideration would make things obviously much better for athletic contests, especially when you get stacked in the spring with some of your games. In terms of consolidation, anticipating that we're bringing our freshman students into the building in the fall of 2026, it certainly expands the opportunities for us to make the most use of our incredible facilities and making sure that we have alternate practice times where we can, again, take full use of those fields in the springtime. So I think the consolidation and the time change coinciding at the same time as well. Again, getting out about an hour and a half later and stacking in, again, as Fritz talked about, the coaches from being outside the organization and coming in. We're confident that this will improve that experience for our student athletes and have them be on safe surfaces that we've all invested in. I'm excited about that opportunity.
Thanks, Bob, and you did bring up a good point. There's been many occasions I've dealt with as a parent myself, and looking across the room, I know there are parents here that have experienced it and some coaches where you're playing a modified or a JV game and it stopped. The game is over because it's getting too dark, and now those kids just lost an opportunity of an extra 15 minutes of play where maybe if it was earlier in the school year or if it was held on a different time, they could have finished that game. On this slide, you're going to see where potentially with more lights, we'll have some winter teams that will have, weather permitting, of course, the opportunity to practice on a lighted field, especially with our indoor track team. Gym space is a premium. I do rent out Nazareth University, but that's not always available either. So we really do the best that we can in terms of the limited space that we have right now. And full disclosure, because in my previous slide, you did see some modified teams. Full disclosure, JV and varsity, just the way our league scheduling works, and because of what they're playing for and the calendar that's dictated to us, they would take priority. But as I have done, we do have modified softball and modified baseball that currently will play on the multi-purpose turf field. They do that later in the spring. What you're going to see also at the bottom is the weeks and the days where our fall interscholastic season holds, our winter and our spring. Those are dictated by State Education Department and our State Athletic Association. So a lot of weeks, a lot of days, and that's all due to practice and competition. And our teams tend to go far. This is a very talented district. It's really due to you as families supporting your student athletes, but our teams do well. And the vast majority of our teams are still going in the Western Regionals. And it's dark. It's dark at 5, but they're still practicing. Bill Teasdale is one of those coaches. Kieran Murphy has been there before as a coach. So is Scott Fitch. So with the consolidation and the times, what we're looking at is potentially, and again, there's got to be some flex be involved with kids staying after school or minimizing conflicts with clubs or the heat index or cold index. But we're looking at 4 to 6 practice slots, 6 to 8 practice slots. Games would be able to start at 5:30, and then the next game would start at 7:30. And you also want to make sure that you're being reasonable and you're being a good neighbor too. Games would not be starting at 9 o'clock. That's just not something that I would be involved with. We had a situation 2 days ago with our field hockey championships. The original date was at Gates Tri-Line, and it was lightning. And it was something where the conversation was, we're not starting past 8. It's a school night. We got to reschedule for the next day, which was last night, and thankfully Runnequoit was kind enough to host us. And in addition to boys soccer and girls soccer winning championships, our field hockey team was also able to win a Section 5 title as well. So congratulations to them in girls soccer and boys soccer.
So the big question, as soon as we were put it out to the community that we can do lights, I know Fritz sent out his email. Within 20 minutes, we got a question. Why can't we put lights at the new track field? I love seeing people advocate. I'm in the district office. I love when I see that. It means a lot, and I do enjoy it. So please know there's 2 separate propositions. So uniquely, we had 2 propositions voted on the same day. Usually there's just one. But with a proposition, you'll see just below, everybody see playfield improvements there that's highlighted. If you look 2 lines down and a little bit over to the right, you'll see the number $36,352,000. By law, we cannot spend any more money on this project other than that $36.35 million. Remember when I said earlier back that we are allocating funds based on the projects, based on where it lands and what it correlates to? So we can't spend any more than that. The track is a separate project, and that was $9.475 million. Once we did all our allocation, we used up all the track money. So as of now, there is no available money for the track, and the lighting is specific to the track. We are not able to put lighting on the track and put it towards project number 1. So right now, all the money that we had left over due to those favorable bids is currently on Proposition 1, and that is why we can't do any additional work at the track at this time. Now again, remember I said that we do have contingencies put in place for potential problems that we occur during the project. That might come to fruition and we don't use all that money, but that's going to take almost until closeout for us to know that. And that's going to be closer to the end of the 2027 calendar year. So that is why at this time, we cannot put lights on the track.
So just for clarification purposes, that track and field and the tennis courts is being plumbed
Absolutely.
for lights.
Everything's ready to go. All we'll need to do is install
That
the
was part of the
poles.
project.
Yep. And with that, any
Open up some questions to the audience. Community members, any thoughts?
So right in this room, I should have brought my meter in, but you probably have about 50-foot candles in here. It's usually, indoor spaces are normally lit to 50-foot candles. And on projects like this, you have two choices. High school baseball, all the way down to Little League, requires a very specific amount of light on the infield and uniformity for safety reasons, right? The small ball traveling at a high rate of speed and short distances. So we need 50-foot candles in the infields with 2-to-1 uniformities or better. So that's how, take your brightest spot and you divide it by your darkest spot, and you need it to be really smooth, right, in order to be able to track the ball effectively. So every one of these multi-purpose fields in the state of New York that's at for a high school level, we light the infields to 50-foot candles. What you do with the outfields in the multi-purpose field is where you have some flexibility. Currently, the plan is to light it to 30-foot candles, so that where the outfields will be lit to 30-foot candles with 2.5-to-1 uniformities. And that is the minimum for high school softball and baseball, but it's also the perfect amount, in my opinion. The multi-purpose field would also be lit to 30-foot candles then as a because it's so much of the real estate of the multi-purpose field shares the outfield of the baseball and shares the outfield of the softball field. So typically that's kind of the minimum level, and I'll be honest, myself and a handful of other people, probably the only ones that can really visually see the difference between 50 and 30-foot candles. Most people just don't really notice that much, and right now the plan is to keep that middle field at the lower light levels needed to meet all of the minimum standards, but not necessarily light the entire facility to 50-foot candles, because once you do increase that middle field to 50, then you really have to light all of the baseball and all of the softball to 52. And so right now, this is predominantly going to make sure we're meeting all of the minimum requirements, but not going overboard. We're altering this design a little bit right now because with the way that this project worked and the background that was provided, there are some utilities in places that we would normally want to put poles. So we actually are right in the middle of adjusting how we're going to move things around a little bit. But it's kind of a give and take. Right now, most of the mounting heights here are 80 feet. There's a few that will be potentially taller, like the far left one, B2. There are also some that are going to be shorter. For example, a standard height on a softball infield is only 60 feet. And so poles that are serving multiple functions, for example, that one that's all the way on the left side of beyond the goal, we want that one to be taller than 60 feet because that pole's got to throw light to the middle of the baseball field. It's got to go throw light to the middle of the soccer field. And we want that angle to be very steep so that we're not, if you were to shrink that mounting height, we could make all of those 60s, but then it increases the amount of offsite spill light tremendously. And so on this project right now, it's a mix of 60s, 70s, 80s, and potentially a 90. We're not quite sure yet. We're still working out the details. But once we identify exactly where we can physically put poles, then we'll start narrowing down the collection that you need. And I say give and take because you can increase mounting heights and that sometimes will decrease others. Sometimes we will decrease some and increase a 60 to a 70. Really, once we know exactly where poles can go and how much light we need, then we run a million calculations and figure out what's the most efficient in terms of to minimize the energy, to maximize spill and glare, and to make sure playability is perfect. We don't calculate the vegetation for lots of reasons, right? It's the same. Rochester actually does have this market, we have quite a few poles that are different colors. RIT likes powder coating and black, but ironically, trying to use the vegetation similar to pole height in that if you make them all green, they look great for 3 months out of the year and they stand out like a sore thumb for the other 8 or 7, excuse me. But if the vegetation, if we calculated what it was in that moment in time, that was probably a summer aerial image if I had to guess based on how dense the vegetation's there. It would be 0 at 60 feet, 70 feet because of the blockage. But during the winter, doesn't look like that, right? So we would literally have a different spill value for 365 days a year. And so we just to be conservative, we want to make sure that we're setting bars that we're going to clear easily. But we will, the CAD file we used for this particular does show the property line, and we will calculate those values as we go forward. For illustration purposes tonight, we just thought the aerial image might be a little better visual than seeing it on a 2D rendering. Yeah, I do on every project, especially ones where spill and glare matters. I've been fortunate. There's only one project and that list that we showed earlier with the number of projects, they were being modest. We've been much more successful than that here in Rochester, but and unfortunately, there are a couple of examples of projects we've lost. I mean, Rochester City Schools is a great example where, back in 2013, 14, 15, they tried to be an early adapter and they specified LED before the market was really, or before the technology was really ready. So Franklin High School, for example, is one that's near and dear to my heart because I have a friend that lives across the street from there, and every time they turn it on, he sends me a picture. That's not Musco. And I'll be honest, if you've played on a field that's got really, really bad lighting, like where you feel like you want sunglasses to be able to watch a game at night, that's probably not Musco. It's just, and I lose maybe 2 out of 100 projects in the state of New York, and every time I do, I have to apologize for our competitors. And again, it's not that, I say that tongue in cheek, but it just, we compete with publicly traded companies that it's one line. No one can really do what we do from a R&D perspective. And so it's just the gap between us and everything else is hard to imagine unless you can see it. And in fact, I'll demonstrate real quick. I'm not going to pass out Art Shield, so I'll turn it down here, but get it to the point where it's dimmed down to low. If I were to take this visor off, this is what our competitors look like, right? I mean, they basically, they say, just like we have here, these have TIR optics in here that are reflecting the light, so it's actually harnessing it down, but an LED is a flat surface, so it projects light 180 degrees around it. So just by recessing that and putting a diode on there and a lens, it doesn't do the job. You really need a comprehensive system that you combine not just a recessed diode, but that you also have the visor combination, right? And that allows, so whether you're standing over here, it's blocking the light from here, you're blocked from the light here, you're blocked from the light here. And so it's just it's a completely different approach to how you want to light things. And the one thing that makes us unique is normally when you put this kind of visor on there, you lose efficiency. We've been able to figure out how to not lose that stuff that we're capturing up there. So you don't, if we go back a bunch of slides ago, that was always the issue, is that the better you got at blocking light, you also are blocking light that you wanted. And what we were able to do with this product that we released approximately 10 years ago is to make sure that we're not losing the light that we're blocking up there. And now our gains are smaller because,
Thank you. We'll just, other questions, just so, I appreciate the thorough analysis. Yes?
So if you see the white squares that are around, those are the current pole locations that we have. Like Nathan had said earlier, we did just do a field walk and look at the existing utilities. A couple are moving, but they will be back behind the field.
Yeah, that's a great question. There is quite a bit of distance between the parking lot at the high school and the softball fields. There will be golf cart traffic. There are the elderly or people that need some assistance to get back there, so, yeah.
If I could just highlight one other component of that, there's some additional parking that is closer to the facility. One of the reasons we run those golf carts is the distance right now that exists between the multipurpose field. And so as a part of the track construction, there is a handicap parking, more accessibility, much closer to the facility. So I think that in theory would cut down on some of that. And I can't remember how many spots, it was like 27 spots in that?
Roughly 27 to 30.
27 to 30 spots that are, markedly closer to the facility, literally just above where the current chow hut is, which is right at the path that leads to the multipurpose field.
We have typically, with softball, baseball, 8 to 10 home games during the regular season for varsity. JV as well. Modified, they'll typically get on the turf in late May. Our middle school programs, yep. I would say both. I would say both. With lights, you're going to have more flexibility in terms of when you can practice and when you can play. I would anticipate that we would be at least practicing because we do go Monday through Saturday. Saturdays they'll go in the morning and the afternoon, but Monday through Friday, yeah.
We have a question back here. Correct. That's a JV baseball field. That will not be lit. There will be sound systems, but again, we also want to be good neighbors, right? And so, just like we modify Sunday usage, after certain times, I would imagine that we would be doing the same thing. We haven't set any standards at this point in time, but we do anticipate being good neighbors. Fritz?
Yeah, I appreciate that. There are neighbors that I will communicate with regularly in terms of this is too loud or we need to turn it down, and we have done noise checks and we have turned things down, and I do need that feedback so I can make sure that is controlled and we are being good neighbors. And that also includes making sure that we're limiting the traffic. Mr. Clark brought up a good point that I had forgotten about the additional parking. With the question that you had, that would definitely limit the golf cart traffic as well. But your noise about the speakers, your comments about that is noted. Yep.
So I do appreciate the comments and feedback, and if there are natural things that we could do. I'm baseball dad, foul balls, I get it. Go to that softball field, I get it. So if there's natural things that we could do over time, we'll be committed to addressing those. I don't have an answer for you tonight. Fritz might have some thoughts, but thank you for sharing.
Yep. Appreciate the question, and I feel like we have addressed if there's a foul ball, we're telling our players do not go back there. I'll just assign a supervisor, and I realize it's not a perfect system, but we'll continue to monitor that and adjust and make sure that your needs are taken into consideration and note those and to just continue to do the very best we can. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing it up. Norm, then we're gonna, yep. Norm.
We do have existing lighting in place. As part of the system, you do have down lighting that's on there that is for the sole purpose of just the walking path. But I do believe if the event was over, you could control and dial that down to take the stadium lights down and just provide the proper amount of foot candles you needed to walk safely back to your car. We're gonna have
Into that parking lot, yeah.
Yep, and then we got lights on the current football field as well that point down and illuminate the path going past the chow hut.
And I'll just add, right now we have a pedestrian zone incorporated in, but it really is focusing on those two poles that are on the far left side to, right now, the existing pathway. Obviously, the intent would be you want everybody to funnel away from the property line as they're leaving or back towards the parking lot. So we don't have anything on those poles closest to the property line or to the residents that are closest here, but we really haven't got to the point yet where we need to decide if we want to add additional. And it's one of the things I was talking about earlier is that we have 15 tools in our toolbox now with our standard stuff. So once we know what is going to be the exit entrance paths and what is there for existing, then we'll potentially add some extremely targeted stuff. Some cases, it's not putting a fixture up at the top of the pole. It's better off putting something that's a much narrower beam at a much lower height to be able to keep the light right on a walking path. And with this many holes, we could essentially let people get out of there, and then that will automatically go off at 9:30.
Norm, we'll look at that walk path. You're talking about going all the way up to the parking lot through that. These lights don't spill that far at all. So we'll take a look at that to make sure that pedestrian walkway is well lit.
Just in terms of a chain though, too, just for a point of reference, while you're looking at that, with that overhead shot, just to the left of like B2, that's where the chow hut is, which is lit for security lighting. And the new parking lot will be just above that. And I think that that kind of connects that, probably the darkest space where that lighting wasn't, would be in that parking lot on the backside of the track stands, correct? Yeah, so I anticipate that being better lit all the way down. And again, so right from the corner of the backstop all the way up through with the security lighting.
So we're gonna jump.
That is something,
The question was about electric bill, using more electricity.
so that is something, and also, I don't know, Nathan, if you can help out with this, but that is always something that we are monitoring. These LED lights are very efficient, so the cost is definitely not as much. I know the halogen bulbs, the original halogen bulbs, as soon as you would turn those things on, the demand would spike. You don't have that with this. Will it be an added cost? Yes, but that'll be absorbed through our general fund budget.
So I think these are all good questions, and I appreciate the insights regarding the use of electricity, regarding the noise level, regarding softballs, regarding light up our paths so people could be safe and comfortable walking back to their cars. That's why we're doing this. So the feedback is very important, and it's not falling away. And I do expect us to address some of these, what I think are fundamental pieces to being a good neighbor and community member. I think we have a question back there. So I think as we move along, we need to look at all options, to promote safety and do all we can to, again, mitigate issues. So again, that's not going unnoticed. So thank you. Thank you. Yep. Again, we're going to be here for a little bit. This will be accessible online, our YouTube channel. If you have questions, by all means, feel free to come up and talk to us. Otherwise, please drive safely, and thank you for coming out to this important conversation.